guys, it's Amanda and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing every single book that I read in 2021. So let's get right into it. This, as you may know, this was my very first year of doing the GoodReads reading challenge, and so that was it was very fun to do, but at first I was like, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to do this? So I'm grateful to say that I did do it, and I am very proud of myself for doing that. So in total this year I read 29 books. Most of these I do have with me, others I read in school and I don't have the physical copies with me, and yeah. And there were a couple of them that I did DNF, so technically I didn't read all of these books, but I still gave them a good try, and I will count them on this list. Let's get right into the first book. And I have my phone here just because I'm looking at my GoodReads and seeing what I rated them and everything, so that's why I have my phone out. I'm not being rude, I promise. So the very first book I read was The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. I loved this. I really did enjoy it. I just loved how it was written. I loved the writing style and the imagery. Really started the year off well with this one. 3 out of 5 stars. It wasn't the very best thing I've ever read. I plan on reading it again this year in 2022 to just reread it and see if I like it more this year, if that makes any sense. Yes, I did give it a 3 out of 5 stars, so I'll read you the back. A timeless love story set in a secret underground world, a place of pirates, painters, lovers, liars, and ships that sail upon a starless sea. Zachary Ezra Rollins is a graduate student in Vermont when he discovers a mysterious book hidden in the stacks. As he turns the pages, entranced by tales of landlord prisoners, key collectors, he reads something strange. A story from his own childhood. Zachary uncovers a series of clues, a bee, a key, and a sword, that lead him to the masquerade party in New York, to a secret club, and through a doorway to an ancient library hidden far beneath the surface of the earth. Zachary travels the twisting tunnels, darkened stairwells, crowded ballrooms, and sweetly soaked shores of this magical world, discovering his purpose in both the mysterious book and in his own life. I've never heard anything like this book before, and it is truly magical and amazing, and I do want to read it again so badly because I read this back in January of 2021, so it's been a year since I've read it, and I really want to read it again and get back into this world, so I really did enjoy this one. The next book I read was The Daughter of Sherlock Holmes. This wasn't the very best book I ever read. It just wasn't great. I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars, and I think it wasn't very catching, if that makes sense. It just wasn't very appealing, and there wasn't really anything that was attention-grabbing. It's 1914. Joanna Bullock's keen mind and incredible insight lead her to become a highly skilled nurse, one of the few professions that allow her to use her finely tuned brain. But when she and her 10-year-old son witness a man fall to his death, apparently by suicide, they are visited by the elderly Dr. John Watson and his charming, handsome son, Dr. John Watson Jr. Impressed by her skills, they invite her to become the third member of their investigation team. If you're looking for a good mystery just to get you over the weekend or something, then this would be a good book to pick up. This is a series. I do know that there is 5 or 4 books in this series. 4 books in this series. I didn't really like it. It wasn't very good in my case. It was okay, but I just like it. The next book I read was actually one of the best books I've read this year, and that is The Universe Has Your Back by Gabrielle Bernstein. Last year I participated in her 21-day manifesting challenge, and that's why I wanted to pick up her books, and I love Gabby. She's amazing. And as you guys know, I am so in love with manifestation and law of attraction, and I love Gabby's view in all of it. So I wanted to read a couple of her books. So the first book I read was The Universe Has Your Back. I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. Gabrielle Bernstein teaches readers how to transform their fear into faith in order to live a divinely guided life. Each story and lesson in this book guides readers to release the blocks to what they most long for: happiness, security, and clear direction. This book is just filled with all of her tips and tricks and the stories throughout her life, how she came over her addictions with manifestation, and how manifestation truly did change her life. And I absolutely love this book. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. It was very good. So the next book, this was actually my first DNF of 2021. So this was The Devil and the Dark Water by Stuart Turton, and I gave this a 2 out of 5 stars. Again, I did not finish it. I read about like 100 pages of it and I just had to put it down. It was just completely boring. Like nothing was happening and it was very slow. Like I'm sure if I continued reading it, it would get faster and actually get better, but I was just not in the mood for it then and I did not finish it. A Murder on the High Seas, a detective duo, a demon who may or may not exist. It's 1634 and Samuel Pepys, the world's greatest detective, is being transported to Amsterdam to be executed for a crime he may or may not have committed. But no sooner are they out to sea than devilry begins to blight their voyage. A twice dead leper stalks the decks. Strange symbols appear on the sails. Livestock is slaughtered in the night. Could a demon be responsible for their misfortunes? So again, I did not finish this book. I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. I don't really want to like try and read it again just because I don't see what more they can really do with the story, if you know what I mean. It's like, okay, yeah, the devil is doing it. So what, like I don't know what more they can really put with that story. So I don't know if I really want to start it again. I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars even though I didn't finish it, but I did not like this at all. The next book I read was Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. I did read this for school, for a project I did in school, and I absolutely loved it. This was my first time actually like reading all of Little Women. I've always known the story of Little Women. I love Little Women. So this was my first time like really reading the book and I absolutely loved it, and I still read it. I reread it again this year and I love it so much. Little Women. I can't get enough of Little Women. I always read it during winter. I always read it during Christmas and I love Little Women. The next book I read, this was actually my second time reading this book, was Pillow Thoughts by Courtney Peppernell. I really love poetry and Pillow Thoughts books was my very first books of poetry that I read and I really did enjoy them. I had to change my battery again. I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved every single poem in that. I did dog ear a lot of the poems that were my favorite and I just really love this series of poetry. Next book I read was Stephen King's It. Oh my gosh, I love It so much and it's one of my favorite Stephen King novels and one of my favorite movies of all time. I wanted to actually read the book and I loved it. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. Welcome to Derry, Maine. It is a small city, a place as hauntingly familiar as your own hometown. Only in Derry, the haunting is real. There were 7 teenagers when they first stumbled upon the horror. Now they are all grown up, men and women, who have gone out into the big world to gain success and happiness. But none of them can withstand the force that has drawn them back to Derry to face the nightmare without an end and the evil without a name. Oh, I want to reread this so bad. Oh my gosh, I love it so much. I think I do want to maybe start rereading it. Maybe I'll start doing that tonight. I just love it. And of course I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. Alright, the next book is From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This was my most anticipated book of the year. I was so excited to read this. I thought it was going to be the best thing I've ever read. I did not like this book. I really liked it, but the ending was horrible and I don't really want to continue the series. I know that's a very unpopular opinion, but I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. I just really did not like it. I thought I was really gonna like this book and I'm really sad that I didn't. I honestly wish this was better. If you've read the book, I bet some of you know what I'm talking about. I just did not like the ending whatsoever and it just gave me bad vibes. I'm like, I don't want to continue reading this. The next books I read were Fable and Namesake by Adrienne Young. Oh my gosh, these books. I loved these. These were so cute. I loved to read them on the beach. I read them in Florida. So I will read you the back of Fable. I won't read Namesake, obviously, because that's the second book. For 17-year-old Fable, the daughter of the most powerful trader in the Narrows, the sea is the only home she's ever known. It's been 4 years since the night she watched her mother drown during an unforgiving storm. The next day, her father abandoned her on a legendary island filled with thieves and little food. To survive, she must keep to herself, learn to trust no one, and rely on the unique skills her mother taught her. The only thing that keeps her going is the goal of getting off the island, finding her father, and demanding her rightful place beside him and his crew. To do so, Fable enlists the help of a young trader named West to go get her off the island and across the Narrows to her father. Together, they will have to survive more than the treacherous storms that haunt the Narrows if they're going to stay alive. I really loved these. Of course, as you guys know how much I love pirate romances, and I have mentioned these two in my previous videos. I just really loved them. The first book I gave a 3 out of 5 stars, and then the second book I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I do go more in depth with my reasoning for that in my pirate romance books video that I will leave that up above. The next book I read was another poetry book, and that is The Rose That Blooms in the Night by Allie Michelle. I loved this. It was so cute, and again, I love poetry. So, without the sun, the rose that blooms in the night must learn to create light within herself and bloom from her own love. This poetry collection is a journey of finding the strength it takes to be soft. The Rose That Blooms in the Night is a collection of poems from spoken word poet, young instructor, podcaster, and Instagram influencer Allie Michelle. The collection is meant to be a mirror reflected the love inside of those who read it. It tells the tale of transformation cycles we experience throughout our lives, falling in and out of love, feeling lost and rediscovering our purpose, learning to create a home with our own skin instead of seeking it in other places. There are a lot of deep stuff in this book, so definitely look up the trigger warnings before you read this, but I just absolutely loved it. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read in school, and I actually don't have the physical copy with me, but I read Lord of the Flies by William Golding. So I read this for school and I had to do a whole project on it. I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. It's obviously not something I would pick up and read. I did really like the projects that we did with it, and I liked all the research I did on it, so I really did like it, but it's obviously not something I would pick up to read for fun, so that's why I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. This was a really deep book, real deep concepts, and I really did like what we did with it, and it was good. The next books I read were the best books I've read in 2021 and the best books I think I've read ever, and that is A Court in Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I've been wanting to read this series for so long, and I'm so grateful that I finally did. This is the best book series I've ever read. I can say that. Best books I've ever read. They're so amazing, so I'll read you the back of the first one. Feyre's survival rests upon her ability to hunt and kill. The forest where she lives in is a cold, bleak place in the long winter months. So when she spots a deer in the forest being pursued by a wolf, she cannot resist fighting it for its flesh. She must kill the predator, and killing something so precious comes at a price. Dragged to a magical kingdom for the murder of a fairy, Feyre discovers that her captor, his face obscured by a jeweled mask, is hiding far more than piercing green eyes would suggest. Feyre's presence at the court is closely guarded, and as she begins to learn why, her feelings for him turn from hostility to passion, and the fairy lands become an even more dangerous place. Feyre must fight to break an ancient curse, or she will lose him forever. And then the second book I read was A Court in Mist and Fury, and then A Court of Wings and Ruin, and then finally A Court of Frost and Starlight. This was the best book series I've ever read. I loved it. I just really wanted to take it slow and read them because I loved them so much. The next book I read is another book I don't have with me, and it's another book that I read for school, and that is I Am Malala, How One Girl Stood Up for Education and Changed the World. I did really enjoy this book. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, and I'm sure most of you know who Malala is and what she stood for, or what she still stands for actually. When the Taliban took control of the Sweet Valley in Pakistan, one girl spoke out. Malala refused to be silent and fought for her right to an education. On Tuesday, October 9th, 2012, when she was 15, she almost paid the ultimate price. She was shot in the head at point-blank range while riding the bus home from school. Instead, Malala's miraculous recovery has taken her on an extraordinary journey from a remote valley in the northern Pakistan to the halls of the United Nations in New York. At 16, she's become a global symbol of peaceful protest and the youngest nominee ever for a Nobel Peace Prize. I really enjoyed this book. I loved the story of Malala. I really think anyone and everyone should read this book, and it was very enjoyable. The next book I read for school was Flowers for Algernon, and I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. Again, this was something I wouldn't really normally pick up, but I did like the concept of the book and the storyline. The story of a mentally disabled man whose experimental quest for intelligence mirrors that of Algernon, an extraordinary lab mouse. In diary entries, Charlie tells how brain operation increases his IQ and changes his life. As the experimental procedure takes effect, Charlie's intelligence expands until it surpasses that of the doctors who engineered his metamorphosis. The experiment seems to be a scientific breakthrough of paramount importance until Algernon begins his sudden, unexpected deterioration. Will the same happen to Charlie? So I give this a 3 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Super Attractor by Gabrielle Bernstein. This is another one of Gabby's books, and I absolutely loved it. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. This is basically the same as her other book. It just gives more of her stories and more tips and tricks on how to manifest, and I absolutely love every single one of her books. I have not read every single one yet, but I do plan on doing that. The next book I read was Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. Oh my gosh. I really love this book, and as I do want to start reading more of the classics, and this one I really wanted to read for quite a long time, and I absolutely loved it. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, and I just loved it. I've read this on audiobook too. A wonderfully entertained coming-of-age story, Northanger Abbey is often referred as Jane Austen's Gothic parody. Castles, locked rooms, mysterious chests, cryptic notes, parental fathers give the story of an uncanny air, but one with a decidedly satirical twist. The story's unlikely heroine is Catherine Morland, a remarkably innocent 17-year-old woman from a parsonage. While spending a few weeks in Bath with a family friend, Catherine meets and falls in love with Henry Tilney, who invites her to visit his family estate, Northanger Abbey. Once there, Catherine, the great reader of Gothic thrillers, lets the shadowy atmosphere of an old mansion fill her mind with terrible suspicions. What is the mystery surrounding the death of Henry's mother? Is the family concealing a terrible secret within the elegant rooms of the Abbey? Can she trust Henry, or is he part of the evil conspiracy? I really enjoy this. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, and I absolutely love Jane Austen's writing, and it was very enjoyable. The next book I read was Dracula Cool by Zachary Stoker and J.D. Barker. I've talked about this book multiple times on my channel before, and this was a very wonderful book, and I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. The prequel to Dracula, inspired by notes and texts left behind by the author of the classic novel. Dracula Cool is a supernatural thriller that reveals not only Dracula's true origins, but Bram Stoker's, and the tale of the woman who connects them. So basically, this book was a mixture between the story of Dracula and Bram Stoker's early life. And I really like how this was done. I would definitely reread this book, and I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. Next up, I read Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. This was my very first time actually reading Harry Potter. I've always known the stories of Harry Potter, and I absolutely love Harry Potter. By the way, I am a Hufflepuff. I know some of you already know that, but I absolutely love Harry Potter. It was so magical, and I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I am going to continue the series slowly because I do want to have the whole series on me. Obviously, I am just going to read them very slowly because I already know everything that happens, so I do want to continue reading them just very slowly, and I love Harry Potter. Next book I read was Unbirthday by Liz Braswell. This is one of the Twisted Tales, and I think this is like the 9th one? Unbirthday is, of course, the twisted tale on Alice in Wonderland, and I absolutely loved this book, and it was so much fun to read. What if Wonderland was in peril and Alice was very late? Alice is different than other 18-year-old ladies in Kexford, which is perfectly fine with her. She'd rather spend golden afternoons with her trusty camera or in her Aunt Vivian's lively saloon, ignoring her sister's wishes that she stop all that nonsense and become a respectable member of her society. But when Alice develops photographs she has recently taken about town, faces of old suddenly appear in the place of her actual subjects. The Queen of Hearts, the Mad Hatter, the Caterpillar. There's something eerily off about them, even for Wonderland creatures. And as Alice develops a self-portrait, she finds the most disturbing image of all. A badly injured, dark-haired girl asking for Alice's help, Mary Ann. Returning to the place of nonsense from her childhood, Alice finds herself on a mission to stop the Queen of Hearts' rule and find her place in both worlds. But will she be able to before the end of time? I love this twist, and it was so amazing, and I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. You will definitely enjoy this. The next book I read was another poetry book, and that is The Girl and the Goddess. I really did like this. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, and I really like this because it's not just poems, it is all a book of poems that do connect, so I do like that. So it's basically the story of the girl named Pero, a girl with a strong will, a full heart, and much to learn. It is a book of poetry, but it does connect, so I really did like this, and I absolutely loved all of the illustrations in this book. It was very pretty, and I absolutely loved all of it. The next up is another book that I read for school, and I don't have it with me, but that is The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. So this goes along with The Lord of the Flies. This is not something that I would pick up for fun, but I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. I did like the story, and I did like all the research I did for it and the essays I did for it, so I really did like it after a while. This is about a woman who commits adultery and has to wear this scarlet letter on her breast. It just goes throughout her life and how her sin has affected her and others, and I really did like it, and I liked everything I did with it, and it was very good. The next book I read was Kingdom of the Wicked. I liked it, but it wasn't one of the best things I've read. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I have not read the second book yet. Two sisters, one brutal murder. a quest for vengeance that will unleash hell itself, and an intoxicating romance. Amelia and her twin sister Victoria are witches who live secretly among humans, avoiding notice from anyone. One night, Victoria misses dinner service and at her family's renowned Sicilian restaurant. Amelia soon finds the body of her beloved twin, desecrated beyond belief. Devastated, Amelia sets out to find her sister's killer and seek vengeance at any cost, even if it means using dark magic that has been long forbidden. Then Amelia meets Wrath, one of the wicked princes of hell she has been warned against in tales since she was a child. Wrath claims to be on Amelia's side, tasked by his master with solving the series of women's murders on the island. But when it comes to the wicked, nothing is as it seems. I did like it. It got boring. Towards the end, it did get a little boring. I have not read the second book. I do have it with me, but I have not read it yet. I think I'll read it at some point this year, but yeah, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And finally, the last book I read in 2021 was Caraball by Stephanie Garber. I loved this book so much. I gave it a 5 out of 5. I would say this was one of the second best books I read this year, and I just really loved it. It's so magical and it's beautiful, and the imagery and the romance! Scarlet Dragna has never left the tiny island where she and her sister Tella live with their powerful and cruel father. Now Scarlet's father has arranged a marriage for her, and Scarlet thinks her dreams of seeing Caraball, far away, once-a-year performance where the audience participates in the show, are over. But this year, Scarlet's long-dreamt-of invitation finally arrives. When the help of a mysterious sailor, Tella whisks Scarlet away to the show. Only as soon as they arrive, Tella is kidnapped by Caraball's mastermind organizer, Legend. It turns out that the season's Caraball revolves around Tella, and whoever finds her first is the winner. Scarlet has been told that everything happens during Caraball is only an elaborate performance. Nevertheless, she becomes enmeshed in a game of love, heartbreak, and magic. And whether Caraball is real or not, Scarlet must find Tella before the 5 nights of the game are over, or a dangerous domino effect of consequences will be set off, and her beloved sister would disappear forever. Welcome to Caraball. Beware of getting swept too far away. This book was so great, and this honestly had some piratey moments in it, and that's why I really did like it, and I just loved it so much. So those are all the books that I have read in 2021. I am so grateful for this year of 2021, and I am so grateful for all that I am going to read in 2022, and I'm so happy that I did read a total of 29 books. Just short of 30. My goal was 25 books and I read 29. 2022, my goal is to read a total of 30 books, and I think I can obviously do that. So that is the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you read any of these books that I mentioned in today's video, please comment that down below. I would love to know. And all the details about these books will be down in the description. And if you did enjoy today's video, please hit the like button, hit subscribe if you have not already, and click the notification bell so you'll be notified every single time that I upload. And if you want to find me anywhere else, you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, GoodReads, Pinterest, and in between the pages of a book. And as always, remember to be the Captain Jack Sparrow of your story, and may your compass lead you to amazing things. And I shall see you guys in my next video. Bye guys. Bye.